What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Foundations, where today I'm going to be showing you how I bought this house for $4,000. Let's break it down. Alright guys, so I found this deal using the one tool most people use to try to sell their house. What is that tool? Zillow. I wanted to go somewhere where people already raised their hand and said, yes, I want to sell my property. And when people raise their hand and say they want to sell their property and they do it on their own for sale by owner, it tells me a couple things. Either they don't want to pay real estate commissions or they can't. Okay, so when I was looking for this deal, I found this particular property that we ended up purchasing with $4,000, utilizing subject to from a homeowner named Hector. Now Hector wanted to sell this house. I looked on Zillow. He had actually purchased it only a year prior. So that told me he didn't have very much equity in the deal. So signaled, hey, this guy wants to sell. Hey, subject to might work, so let's give it a shot. But you guys might be wondering what that is. So let's head back to the office and let me explain. All right, so you guys might be wondering, what in the world is a subject to? In layman terms, subject to means that you're purchasing the property subject to the mortgage that's in place. But what does that actually look like? How did I know that this would be the right fit for the situation? Let me show you. All right, so let's first talk about what this property will look like on the market. Like traditional methods, like how does a traditional sale of a property happen, right? It's either done by an end buyer, a new family, they're gonna be getting financing from a bank to buy a house, or it's a cash transaction to like you investors like you and I, right? So let's look at that. What is this property worth? At the time in 2019, the ARV, remember the after repair value, meaning market value of this property, was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $238,000. Okay, $238,000 is what it was worth. Hector had bought this property about a year prior for he had purchased it, I'm just going to put it here, $237,500. So it had only appreciated like $500 at this time, from the year he purchased it to where it was what he had bought it for a year prior. So guys, when someone buys a house for retail, within a year, do you think they build up any equity? Do you think they build up enough between what they owe and what it would be worth on the market? In this case, I know even if he made 12, 14, 16 payments on this here debt that he had in place, I know that he still owed a substantial amount of money. So when I saw this property online, he had it listed for basically what he paid for it. And he was unable to sell it because this property needed repairs, right? It had work that needed to be done. It did not look the prettiest. Now in 2021, it would have probably sold because everything's moving super fast. But at the time, it needed about $10K in repairs, right? He didn't have enough money to pay for the repairs, but what this signified to me was, for whatever reason, he's only owned it a year and he's asking for what he paid for it. Tells me something's going on. He really needs to get out of this property. So I saw it, I'm like, okay, just by understanding how these numbers work and paying down mortgages, look, most of your payments in your first 7 to 10 years are paying interest only. So he hasn't built up hardly any equity in this deal, and he listed it for sale by owner because he couldn't afford to pay a realtor, listing agent commission 3%, buyer's agent 3%, closing costs 1%. Like, he would have been out of pocket a ton of money. So he couldn't do that, and it had just been sitting on the market for sale by owner basically for what he paid for, and understanding that even if he made 14 to 16 payments on time leading up to the time that I purchased it, he probably still had just a very little bit of equity, like tiny, tiny, tiny. So I approached Hector and I said, well, the reason why you're getting people reaching out to you, I imagine up to this point you've had plenty of realtors call you. He's like, yeah, so many people want to call me. So many people are trying to list my property, but I can't afford to pay them because there's no equity in the deal. I'm like, that makes total sense. And I'm sure you have people like me calling you who want to buy your property for cash, but they're offering you less than what you owe. He's like, yeah, that's why it's just kind of been sitting. If it sells, that'd be awesome. We really like to move, but I'm not going to pay any money to sell my house. I'm like, that makes complete sense. So Hector, let me explain to you how we can structure this as a subject to, so you can sell the property. You don't have to worry about making that mortgage payment anymore. And you guys can probably walk away with more cash than what you would if you tried to sell it on your own. He's like, well, I'm listening, right? So Hector, this is how I explained it to him. This is how I explain all subject tos. What we do in a subject to scenario, we purchase the property subject to the mortgage in place, meaning we will step in your shoes and take over your mortgage payment. So a traditional method, those things don't work. But in a subject to, I don't care about equity. I don't care about any of those things. The only question I ask myself when I structure a deal with Hector is, does this property cash flow, right? Very simple, cash flow. Does it cash flow? All right. So what I need to learn from Hector is, what does he actually pay on his mortgage? Like, what is this number he's paying to secure this property? That is a debt. Now in subject to, there has to be a debt in place. When there's no debt in place and the owner owns it free and clear, you have to go create a finance, like a seller carry, something like that, right? But this has debt in place. So we're going to do a subject to, purchasing subject to the mortgage. But what is that mortgage payment? Okay, so in this case, Hector told me my mortgage payment is $1,400. I'm like, excellent. That is amazing, Hector. I think we can do something, buddy. Because guess what? I know that I can rent this property out. At the time, the rent rate was about $1,800. Okay, it's obviously gone up since then, but at the time when I was underwriting this deal, that's about $400 in cash flow. So, Hector, we can step in your shoes and we can take over your mortgage payment, and this is how that would look, right? I'm very transparent with the seller. Our goal here is to rent this property out. We'll come in, we'll do the repairs, we'll paint it, we'll make it look pretty, and we'll put a tenant in place. But what we have to do is this mortgage has to stay in place. But my goal is for you to never have to worry about it again. We step in your shoes and we'll take over those payments. Everything is done at title. We have a servicing company that services a loan. It's not like me paying you, Hector, and you having to pay the mortgage. It's all done through title, so you don't have to worry about doing any of those things. My goal is to get you guys out of here, get you the cash you need so you can move on. He's like, that's great. What I need is about $1,000. I'm like, I'll do you one better. I can give you $4,000. So I could have even got this property cheaper, but I felt like for what Hector was needing to do, moving his family, you guys know, you move into a rental, you got to pay first and last month, moving costs, all this stuff. Like, I knew that I could pay him about $4,000 and still make sense of the deal, because with the cash to seller, like again, at this time, Hector owed about $233 on the property. He had put like $1,000 or $2,000 down when he purchased the property. He bought it with a VA loan, okay? So I knew that if he had about $233,000 that he owed. I pay him $4,000. That brings me back up to basically what he paid for. That's retail value. But again, I'm able to pay retail for these properties simply because it cash flows. So my $4,000 to the seller, plus the repairs that have to be made, maybe my net cash flow is about $220, $230 a month, which is not crazy high, right? You have to buy quite a few of these properties to make a living off of doing it. But the greatest thing here in Phoenix is, yes, maybe I'm only cash flowing $200 to $250. I'll take that any day of the week, first off. But second off, in Phoenix, we get appreciation. So over the last year and a half, you guys will probably see on a graphic here on the screen, we've had appreciation on this property. It has gone up $90,000 based on the repairs I made and what is sold in the neighborhood. Insane, $90,000. So not only do I get that cash flow, sometimes the cash flow is $500, $600, $700, really good. Sometimes it's a little bit tighter, but I'll take that tighter cash flow in high appreciation markets like Phoenix because I get stuff like this. Like, this is just an additive bonus. My goal is like, yeah, I'll never, ever, ever sell this property, but it's great that I know that over time this asset will appreciate. So guys, look, Hector was able to sell this house. He got more cash than what he even wanted. And I mean, he's no longer making these payments. He's super duper happy over here. I'm just gonna draw a happy face Hector, right? He's stoked because he's never gonna make these payments again. But what happens sometimes, guys, when you're explaining subject to and you're talking to folks like Hector, they're gonna ask, well, Matt, the worst case scenario, what if you stop making the mortgage payment? If you're taking it over and you're stepping in my shoes, I feel like I can trust you, but I don't really know you. Well, Hector, greatest thing, buddy. What happens if we miss that payment? We do what's called a performance deed. So what happens if we miss that payment? Instead of it going to foreclosure, you get the notice and we're behind maybe a month or two, but you also get the property deeded back to you. You get the $90,000 in appreciation, if not more at that time. You get the cash flow. You get a property that's in marketable condition because we did all the repairs and we've been keeping up with it. So a lot of times, Hector, when I explain this to them, sellers start trying to like plot my death, some weird stuff. Like, so where are you going to be at 5 o'clock tomorrow or whatever, right? So, I mean, you get your sellers to laugh and they understand that there are backstops in place to protect them as well. It's not just one-sided. It works both ways. It's advantageous for both seller and buyer. So don't get wrapped up too much in the details, guys. There's a lot of inner workings of a subject too. You can look at all the paperwork and all the disclosures and all these things, but the concept is simple. Does this property cash flow? Right? What kind of market are you in? Are you in an appreciation market? Or are you in a market that properties really don't appreciate? In markets like that, maybe I want more cash flow, but this is what I care about most. I don't care about equity. I care about cash flow. We're able to solve the seller's problem. I come in, take over these payments, and get the benefit of that, holding on to that real estate. And guys, look, this was my first one I ever purchased subject to. $4,000 out of my pocket. Sometimes people buy them for $500, $1,000. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. And build massive portfolios of deals just like this. So I don't know about you guys. Put in the comment section. Do you think a $4,000 property could change your life? Maybe it's something that you and your family can move into. Because that's what I did. I moved into this one. I've now built my family from the beginning in this house. We now have a baby, and now we're looking for the next thing, right? But do you think a new house could change your life? Do you think a $4,000 property that is appreciated in a year and a half could change your current situation? Like, put it in the comment section below, guys, because this is powerful stuff. If you got some value, please, please, please like this video. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. I hope to come to more value to you guys every single week on these foundation episodes. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Peace.